What is up, my ninjas? I am Strident, and today I'm here with a review of the Cops and Crooks Nightmare figure by Hasbro from 1988. This is a vintage figure. This is the last figure that I received that finished off my Cops and Crooks collection. This was actually the only Crook I had when I was a child. I just love that they call them Crooks. I don't know. It's just awesome. This guy is kind of cool in the same way that cyborgs are usually cool to kids and whatnot. He's just a mixed match of pieces that make him look really scary in a cool kind of way, you know, as far as action figures go. This is the only one of the Cops figures that I got mint in package. Next to, well, actually, that's not true. I got a vehicle mint in package, the ATAC paddy wagon. But note this, he was $2.98. $2.98 in whenever this was, from 1988 to like 1990 something. $2.98. Most of the ones that I had when I was a kid, that's about what we paid, $3, something like that. That's nuts. With that in mind, there's no way we should be paying $50 per, you know, Cops figure. But anyway, here he is with Dr. Bad Vibes and Buzz Bomb. He was a botched experiment by Dr. Bad Vibes. We always used him as like, he was kind of like how Juggernaut is in the X-Men books, or used to be, where whenever this guy showed up, people were dying. So here's Dr. Bad Vibes unveiling Nightmare to Big Boss. Those wires that you see there are wiring that I bought to switch up with, you know, wires for various things. Dr. Bad Vibes has pleased Big Boss. Big Boss is happy and actually has ideas of what he can do with this monstrosity. I love, when I'm looking at all these guys, how all the sculpts are so different. I've been saying it, and you know, seeing them together really does it, you know. Big Boss has a completely different face. Nightmare has a completely different body type than Big Boss, you know, and Dr. Bad Vibes. And it's just cool to see variety. This is something that's missing from toy lines today. And this was freaking 26 years ago, you know. What happened, Hasbro? Anyway, here's Nightmare out of his package. Badass. He just exudes menace. You know what I mean? Looking at him, he just looks like the guy that will kick your cops' asses, you know? Like the cops, when they're being briefed on their first day, they say, if you come across Nightmare, call for as much backup SWAT teams as possible. You know what I mean? Like, you need it. Here's a close-up of his chest, because that button is actually a feature. His head fires off, and when it hits, because it's top-heavy, the caps go off. The firing mechanism goes off and it explodes with caps. I didn't bother to do a demo for you guys because I don't feel like running the risk of setting my house on fire. Because they did spark up and shit. Here he is from the back. You can see he's got a lot of detailing all throughout. Those cool little turbine things on his back. I don't know what they are. Maybe they're exhaust ports. I don't know. That's what we used to pretend they are. I like the choice of colors, and I like where the colors are. And this is what I'm talking about is lacking from a lot of the newer figures. The paint variety. They only use like 3 types of paint, or 3 different colors, you know. You have your gold, you have your red, you have your silver, and then you have your flesh tone, which is the base. And it looks good. There's your profile. There's your other profile. Everything is sculpted to perfection. I have no issues with any of the sculpting on any of these of this figure at all. I love his eye. I love his fact he's got that little big chunky nose. I also love the fact that his weapons, actually most of them he can store them on his body. That's always a plus, and the Cops figures were good about doing that. That knife and his pistol were cool. I lost those when I was a kid. I lost them quick. I also lost this really quick. This is his pincher hand / taser hand. Right now, I think this will be the default hand, and then the others would show up later. But just, you know, that's kind of a creepy, it's a creepy appendage, you know? Just, you know, trying to get into a melee situation with that, it just doesn't look right. It's like, ooh, shit. The same goes for this knife hand, a curved knife hand. I mean, that's awesome. I could see, you remember how I said cops should have, all the cops should be fighters, you know, and the whole super cop element should be what they focus on for the cops. I could see a super cop style fight between, you know, one of the cops and Nightmare, and they're dipping and dodging that crazy ass knife. I like it. It looks good. It's not a style of knife or of blade that you typically see, you know, almost a pirate blade. Next, we have his whip. Now, the whip, that was the accessory I kept the longest. I played with it so much, though, that the little knives on the ends, they broke off after so long. But it's made of a nice, you know, pliable plastic. The sculpting on the actual knife blades, it's pretty damn good. It's impressive considering, you know, like I said, $3 toy. I mean, just look at that. And I'm going to get in closer so you can see a little bit more detail on him. It's just well done, you know. And I like when the bad guys have interesting enough pieces to them to keep you, you know, engaged. And this is no exception. There's a lot of cool details on this guy. And it just seems like they were on top of their game. Even though there's no paint, it's still a lot of detail, you know, thrown in there for good measure. And I appreciate it. I mean, shit, 26 years later, I'm going back and buying these guys. The next piece is his pistol. Now, the pistol was funny because it doesn't sit in that sheath or holster very well, which is why I put those clear rubber bands on there. But it was a nicely detailed piece. You know, like I said, mine, I lost it quickly. When we were kids, we used to throw them all over the place and do all kinds of crazy, you know, like acting out choreography and such. And he flew somewhere. And the cool thing about him was, or one of the cool things about this is it's bright. So, you know, in this day and age, if I was to drop it, I'd be able to find it. I think we had lots of toys like this back in the day, so that's why it stayed lost. But all in all, that's it. That's the figure. He's a dope figure. He's very creepy looking, very tough looking. It's perfect for, you know, the kind of universe that we built in our minds, you know what I mean? Like I said, based on RoboCop, we had that violence and that intensity and, you know, that kind of like the cops are asked out, you know, because the villains are so crazy and whatnot. And even though there were less crooks than there were cops, you still had that feel. And this guy fits in perfectly, you know? He was like Kane for us from RoboCop. But I love these figures, like I said. These are, you know, my childhood. So this has been a review of the 1988 Hasbro Cops and Crooks Nightmare figure. And I think if you ever get a chance, if you feel like it, if you're interested, pick him up. He's not a bad buy. And I actually was able to pick him up for relatively cheap. I picked him up for less than what most figures cost in this day and age. My name's Strident. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. I hope you guys dug the review. I'm going to have a couple more coming out really quickly because now I've got them all. And that's it for me. You've been great. Peace outside.